Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here with the Orns 10-minute take on Watford 1, Crystal Palace 4. Well, 10 minutes of a take on this game. I don't think you need more than 30 seconds. Abject, abject, abject was the password tonight at the Vic for the home side. Watford just not taking advantage or getting motivated at all by the 1-0 win at Aston Villa just a few days ago, I should say. But it might as well have been a few games ago because it seemed like last year that Watford won that game at Aston Villa after this performance tonight was absolutely inexcusable. This was the catalyst game that you needed to kick yourself forward. But I think Watford kicked themselves in the backsides and went down on their backs because they did not have the energy or intensity required in this game to deal with a Crystal Palace side that had only once won away from home in the Premier League this season. That's right. Watford were dealing with a Crystal Palace side who had only one away victory all season in the Premier League. That came at Manchester City, but they hadn't won since then. That was back in September or October. I mean, that's how far ago that was. And Watford have not won at the Vic for almost that long, as Watford still searching for a home win in the Premier League since November of 2021. Yes, it has been that long. And they're going to go into March having not won a game in the Premier League at the Vic since November. That is abject. And Watford did themselves no favors tonight with the way they played this game, nervy, tentative, ceding real estate to Crystal Palace, giving them the run of the pitch, having Crystal Palace players play them off the park without any real effort at all. Our negativity really continued to infect the way we play at the Vic in particular because we just did not have any ideas out there. We were grasping for straws out there. We weren't pressing the ball at all when Palace had it, and we were only too content to sit and watch Palace players outmaneuver us and outrun us to every ball, it seemed. They were in the mood, Palace, and we gave them the impetus by not doing anything. We did not do anything proactive in this game. We reacted throughout this game to everything that Palace was doing. And worse than that, we reacted far too slowly. We were a step slow, static, anemic, lifeless. We did not have the energy that we needed and that we had to have coming into this game. This was a game that we needed to win. This was a game coming off the Villa game that we won away from home that was going to set us up toward getting out of the mess that we are in. And Watford did not take advantage of that. We don't seem to do very well with prosperity. Watford this season have not played well with prosperity, coming out of a winning position in a game, coming out of a game, the previous game, where you won. Watford somehow find a way to play far worse when they come back to the Vic. Case in point, looking back at the game against Norwich back in September, when Norwich and Watford played at Carrow Road, and Watford won that game in style 3-1 and looked good doing it, especially in the second half of the game. The next game was against Newcastle at the Vic, and Watford played as poorly as they could in the first half of that game. That was the chance for Watford to kick on in the game against Newcastle after they had beat Norwich in the previous week away from home. They came home and laid an egg. And fortunately for Watford, they were able to get away with it because Newcastle, at least at that time, were playing very poorly. And even though Newcastle came in with a 1-0 lead at the halftime break, Watford managed to get a goal late on. I think it was around the 72nd minute from Sarr to give them an equalizer and a point in a game that they should have ended up winning had they applied themselves. But this team just does not know how to deal with prosperity. Maybe they're not good enough to deal with prosperity. Maybe there's no leadership. Maybe, just maybe, they have tanked it all. Because in a game like this, you would hope, you would expect and believe that Watford would have at least had the motivation to go win this game tonight. You would have thought so. You would have thought that coming off a 1-0 victory at Aston Villa, you would have got confidence from that. You would have got motivation from that. You would have been chomping at the bit to play at the Vic and repay those fans who you have disappointed so many times at the Vic this season. You would have thought. But alas, no, it didn't happen. Watford did not come out with the required desire and the intensity. They did not want this game as much as Palace did. Palace wanted it much more. And then the thing about that is that Palace wanted it much more, but didn't really have to exert themselves too much to beat us 4-1 at home. No motivation coming off against Villa. No motivation playing against Crystal Palace, a team that, look, Watford and Palace fans do not get along. Let's put it that way. No motivation at all. Crowd was up for it at the beginning, and then by the 83rd or 84th minute, the crowd was gone. No one to be seen at the Vic. In a way, I cannot blame the fans. Look, if it was me, I would have stayed to the bitter end. But I can't blame the fans for walking out on that because they don't know that these players really do care. I do question that. And if they do care, they do not care consistently enough. I am very troubled by the yo-yo nature of this football team. Sometimes they look very good. I stand by what I've said about where I think this team will end up, but come on. With the games that they've got left, it's still doable, but my goodness me, these are the games where it's supposed to be doable. You are supposed to be beating Crystal Palace. There's no other way around that. And Watford did not play well. I mean, look, when Watford conceded the first goal, it was a deflected goal, bad luck. But that's what happens to you when you're in the bottom three. Bad things like that will happen to a bottom three side. Same thing happened at West Ham a couple of weeks ago. Deflection. Then Watford played much better in that game. And they lost to a cruel deflection. That happens, especially when you're in the bottom three. It happened again tonight. Kiko Femenia was the victim of it. And unfortunately, that really set Watford back. But the character showed for a few ephemeral moments. The character showed Sissoko off a set piece by the same aforementioned Kiko. And boom, from the corner into the back of the net, Musa Sissoko, his first Watford goal. And it looked like Watford had gained some energy from that. And for a few minutes, they looked pretty good. Not too great, but good enough to be competent to play the game. And then all of a sudden, they, a few minutes later, fell back into the old habits that have dogged them all season long in defense. The defense tonight, for the first time under Roy Hodgson, was an utter shambles. At sixes and sevens, grasping at straws, defending far too deep, not pressing up the pitch on Crystal Palace, giving them all this room to operate in, and then defending deep, inviting Palace onto them. And that is not a winning formula, whatsoever. And as a result, Crystal Palace got a goal from Conor Gallagher, who I said in the Orns midweek focus was going to be the danger man that Watford had to watch out for. The defenders had to keep their eyes on him. And you cannot, as I said back in that midweek focus, you cannot give Conor Gallagher any kind of space at all. You have to be on him like a blanket. And if you give him a half yard, he is going to finish on you because we've seen it. I've watched a lot of their games and I've seen Conor Gallagher. I've watched him a lot this season. I know very well what he's capable of. And you saw it again tonight. Half a yard given to him and he blasted the ball into the back of the net, finished very well there. And that's what he did. And that's why he's so dangerous. I don't know at all if Chelsea are going to hold on to him. But look, that's not my real concern. As a Watford fan, I could care less whether Chelsea holds on to him or not. My concern is these Watford players. They are not in the game today. They were not in this game tonight at all. Never really, outside of the goal that Sissoko scored, never really laid a glove on Crystal Palace. And that is inexcusable at home. If you're away from home, I may be able to look at that and go, okay, maybe. And I really emphasize maybe with an asterisk at either side of that word. But other than that, with the Sissoko goal tonight at home, to be at home and only fashion that goal and only one other chance in the entire game speaks volumes about how bad things are at Vicarage Road, where Watford cannot buy a victory, let alone score. I mean, they were fortunate to get the goal tonight. It was a good, well-placed header, and it was a good cross, good set piece. But we did not have any chances from open play except Emmanuel Dennis missing a sitter in the second half of that game. He skied the ball when he had the goal at his mercy, and he did not compose himself. He snatched at it. And that's what we do. We invite teams onto us and then invite them in, they score, and then we start to get desperate. And then we start to move the ball forward, only sporadically. That is a pattern and a mentality that has got to end with this club. This team has got to end that kind of approach to games. The attitude was not the way it should have been for a game like this. With everything at stake, with everything that you know that was at stake in this game, with Burnley winning, and with the fact that Burnley still have a couple of extra games in hand, and the fact that Burnley now have strung together 2 wins, Watford have not built upon the win at Aston Villa. In fact, they've gone way backwards past that game and backwards beyond that game. They are back at square -1. And this is not going to do for this football club and this football team. And the fans are not going to have this. So you can understand why. Now, listen, again, I would have stayed, but you can understand why fans walked out of that. It was abysmal. It's abysmal performance. And you cannot do that to fans that are paying. Well, I guess you could do it because these players have been doing this 16 other times this season. We have suffered this same fate. Fans show up, they pay their hard-earned money, and these players, sometimes, some of them just do not seem to care at all. And it's a very sad thing, and a lot has to be made of the players here. We can talk about the board all day, and I'm sure we will. Roy Hodgson is not the problem here, although I did disagree vehemently with his take on this game. The idea that Watford were anywhere near equal to Palace is an absolute April Fool's joke. There's just no chance. I don't think any manager who is being totally honest, and Roy Hodgson is an honest broker here, but no manager can sit here tonight coming off of that defeat and say that Watford were equal in large measure to Crystal Palace. They were not. They were subordinate to Palace. They absolutely played like an academy team. No offense to the academy at Watford, but Watford FC tonight played like an academy team who were just trying to learn the ropes, and Palace schooled them tonight. This has been the Orns 10-minute take.